There we go. Okay. So officially welcome to this afternoon session. So see if anyone else will join us. You never know. Otherwise, just the two of us. And so if you've done your little check-in, maybe just share that for the benefit of anyone listening to the recording. So you said you had a little insight into your business through meditation.
Big insight. Yeah, so I was coming to the end of the meditation yesterday afternoon, and it was just like a download, like a big expansion, a bigger picture view of my business, and a real deep knowing that this is the way forward. Now, I kind of logically, vaguely come to, but I hadn't had the spiritual connection with it all, and it was so clear. It was just absolute clarity. Oh, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, sort of thing. It was like, that's where it's heading. All right, okay. And although I didn't get like the detail of it, the energy that came with it, I'm sure will stay with me, because it's like a driving force. It was like, I see. My business is kind of morphing into being called the Peaceful Way. And so it was the Peaceful Way individual packages that had kind of downloaded on me. I went, oh yes, of course. So yeah, it feels good. It's just a good feeling rather than I've got to think it out. It was I can just know it's there now.
Oh, so it's an underlying energy. It's that kind of frequency of energy you tap into, and that's inspiration. That power you experience is, what we call inspiration. So it way transcends the ego's motivation. Ego will say, oh, no, Sally, you want to achieve something on the level of form. You want to get more clients. You want to make more money. You want to, run more retreats. You want to get your numbers up. It's quite funny. I listen to YouTube sometimes when I'm working at night, and they have these little ads, that pop up. If you haven't subscribed, then you have to tolerate the ads every now and then. So there's this one ad that keeps coming on for some I think it's some kind of app, productivity app, team management, this kind of thing, called Asana or something. And the lady's like, well, if you have Asana, you'll hit more milestones, you'll achieve more goals, and you'll turn work game over to work game on. And you just kind of go, that's just so egoic. But this is how many people still think. It's like, hit more milestones, achieve more goals, great. This is what it's about. Whereas inspiration works differently. It's not necessarily about doing more. It might be about completely re-engineering your business, saying, actually, and no app, no productivity app's going to do that for you. Only your mind can do that. The spirit translated into your mind in an inspired state can do that, and that's actually the basis for any great business. You really look into the founding of that. Take Apple's a good example. It's a very, very commonly known one. Steve Jobs, he was a pretty inspired guy. He went on his own spiritual journey, went to India, he tried psychedelics, he did all of that. And he had something different from the average executive because of that. He was a little bit more tapped in, a little bit more expanded, and he saw the world differently. And yet he had a business mind as well, but it was a creative business mind. So the driving force of Apple was that creativity that Steve Jobs had, that brought something different to it, that meant that Apple had some kind of, how can you put your finger on it? But the brand and the perception that was created by Steve Jobs through, expanded thinking, and that's really where the value of the entire company lies. When he left, because they got rid of him, the story.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, they got rid of him. He built this thing from scratch with his mate Steve Wozniak, And then like 10 years into it, it become all corporatized, and he hired some executive to like, grow the numbers. And they said, no, we don't need you anymore, because we're hitting our numbers and we're doing really well. So thanks, you're superfluous to requirements. And I think he still had some shares, but he pretty much exited the business. He wasn't in charge anymore. And from that point, they slipped. Apple went into a decline until about the mid 90s, when he came back via one of the companies he'd started, because he didn't just rest. Apple acquired a company that he'd started, and then they brought him back. And then very quickly they realized that they'd been missing this X factor that he had. The creativity. Then the renaissance of Apple was, Steve Jobs coming in. He's like, okay, so let's see what we can do. And in the second incarnation of it, they started with the iPod and the iPlayer and iTunes, and all of that was his ideas. And so it was ideas that were really behind initially the first wave of ideas was the Macintosh. That was a pretty amazing idea at the time. So that was what founded the company. Then they stagnated because these executives who are not tapping in, they can't be creative. They can't think, oh, well, what's the next thing? They just go, are we hitting our numbers? Are we selling enough Macintoshes? They can't conceive of an iPod or an iPhone, or none of that existed when he came back. But he was able to download and bring these ideas into manifestation. And so then there was the Apple's renaissance, because that creative inspiration was now flowing again into the company via this man who could tap in and download, and he's very charismatic, and then he could kind of permeate that into the organization. And so one person was the kind of driving inspiration of this whole multi-billion-dollar organization. And that's value that is very difficult to frame and go, oh, okay, there it is, and we can see it, and it's tangible. Because in the end, why do people buy? They buy on perception. Why do people buy Apple? Apple's more expensive technology than most other their competitors. People buy Apple because they resonate with Apple's brand and the feeling of it. Oh, no, I'm an Apple person because I like I think differently. That's kind of Apple's thing, thinking out the box. So it's based on values. And then all of the spiritual stuff has got embedded into the brand, and that's what makes people buy it and spend much more money than they would on other technology. Like, why do you buy an Apple rather than a Samsung? Samsung works perfectly good, and it's half the price. Why would you buy an Apple? Because Samsung doesn't have the mojo of the brand. They'll never have that, because they don't have that kind of difference and that sleek design and that history, and they haven't created a tribe. No one goes saying, oh, I'm part of the Samsung tribe. No one says that, but people say it with Apple. So interesting. And that's all spiritual in origin. That's a good example. But there's others. Just how much value this can create. And another story about Steve Jobs, interestingly, do you know why we have all the type fonts in your word processor?
No.
Microsoft Word, and that was his doing. So he went to calligraphy classes in his. He dropped out of university because he was like, I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm not really that motivated, and it's a very expensive university. And his parents had promised that they'd send him to university when they adopted him. That was kind of the deal, in order to adopt him. So they send him to this very expensive university, and he doesn't really know what he's doing. He's kind of like, I'm just wasting my parents' money. So he drops out, but he kind of hangs around the campus for another year or something. And so he just sort of floats into classes, and he liked calligraphy. So he's like, okay, well, I'll go drop in on a calligraphy class. And he finds it really interesting, all the type fonts. And this was apparently like the best university for calligraphy in the whole of the United States. So he learns all of this. And he said, when I did this, I had absolutely no idea that there was any practical use. I just found it fascinating to drop in on these classes and learn about these type fonts. But when they did the Apple Mac, he went, oh, well, let's incorporate that in to the design, that we have all these different type fonts. So there's not just, you know, one boring one. There's all these beautiful type fonts, and of course, Windows copied Apple, and so it became standard in computers. And that's why we have all the type fonts, because he just dropped in randomly to calligraphy classes and went, oh, you know, I enjoy it for the sake of it. You know, there's no like objective or goal. I like the calligraphy because it's beautiful and it's nice to look at. So again, you know, spiritual, intuitive. There was no direct purpose for that, and yet it showed up. You know, it's actually become an industry standard because one man dropped in on calligraphy classes all those years ago, and wasn't goal directed. He was like, you know, he was a dropout. He was just like floating around university, and he didn't have much money, but you know, he said, I loved it. I really enjoyed it, and used to get one good meal at the Hare Krishna temple. So you see, like, there's the spiritual, and that was the value behind you know, Apple, is that mindset of being a little bit different and out of the box, and yet able to translate it into business. That was his kind of his thing. He could, you know, he worked in both worlds. He could be like in the spiritual world, and he understood that, and then he could work in the business world and bring that inspiration to the business world, which is quite unusual. So I think you know, forerunner, a business leader of how business leaders could be. Yeah, you can play in both worlds. You know, your business can be a reflection of your deep spirituality, and that's the way it should be. And if you do that, you will create a very different kind of business. A business that's you know, more about adding value and giving than taking, and that inspires people, that, you know, brings something else than just how much money can we make, and, you know, have we hit our latest numbers, and what's our stock price, and, you know, that's what business has become, and it's a sadly denuded version of what it should be. So really, it's about serving people. The original purpose of any business is, well, how does it add value? How does it serve people? There's no point for having a business if it doesn't serve people's needs. And then you figure out how to monetize it and make some money from it as a secondary function.
And to enjoy doing it, doing something that your soul is connected with.
Yeah. And then that, you know, that enjoyment, passion, inspiration, call it whatever you want, enthusiasm, that then comes in to whatever you do. And if you can inspire others to do that, which is, you know, what says Steve Jobs did, people were inspired to work for Apple, and then that inspiration flows into everything that's done. And so that's happening across, you know, thousands of different interactions and work tasks every day. That now flows into the work, and the whole company has a different quality. So that's, you know, that's really the task. If you're a one-man business, it's easy. You're the inspiration. If you become a CEO of a multinational corporation, your job is to actually inspire your employees, not just manage them, but actually lead them and inspire them to really bring their, you know, their best selves and their most creative selves, their most loving selves to work, and to give that into the company, to give that energy freely, because you can only give it freely. You can't force that kind of energy. Now, be inspired. If you're not inspired, then, you know, your bonus is going to be cut. That's never going to work. You can't force inspiration. It comes when people are happy, and they in a flow state, and they feel safe. They don't feel like someone's going to crap all over them. Someone's going to make them wrong. Someone's going to fire them because they made a mistake. You know, the people have to feel safe, and it's okay. You know, it's an environment where it's okay to make mistakes. And, you know, that's the nature of creativity. It's not everything's going to work. So, okay, we try stuff. If it doesn't work, that's okay. You know, it's not like, oh, we got it wrong. And so, you know, you relate that directly to spirituality. That's condemnation and crucifixion and sin and guilt. On the one hand, you know, oh, you can get it wrong, and we're going to punish you. Versus, no, it's just a mistake. It's okay. You know, really, we value you as more than just a factor of production. You know, we see that you're a human being. You have a spirit, soul. We honor that. We want you to come and be happy at work. We want you to, you know, enjoy your time here and contribute and grow. And you know, that's the enlightened way, what some companies are doing, and they're the companies who leading the way, because you can't force that kind of productivity out of people. It has to be given willingly and freely. And then that becomes the energy behind the company. That's the driving force. It's the employee's energy that then goes into the company and creates the value, and then radiates out to all the stakeholders, like the shareholders and the customers and the suppliers and so on. All of, you know, the employee's energy is what creates the company's ethos, culture, and you know, that the culture then creates the external. Let's show this integral model quickly.
It'd be nice if schools were doing it the Steve Jobs way of just going from class to class, whatever inspires you, whatever you're interested in.
Yeah.
I homeschooled my youngest, and we did that, where he just, whatever interests him, he went with no aim to pass exams or to meet any criteria. And then he created a business that was a bit, you know, out of the box.
Because you taught him to be creative.
Yeah, well, he taught me. Yeah, because there's no way he was going to go to school, and there was no way he was going to follow, you know, traditional learning methods. So we narrowed it down to, he just got to do what he loved.
Yeah. Follow your bliss, said Joseph Campbell in Hero's Journey. Follow your bliss. So what is that? What is that inspiration? What is that passion that really inspires you? It's the question. If you can find it, you know, you don't need formal. I mean, you need some basics, reading, writing, you know, but so much of what we learn at school, I mean, really, like, why do we spend so much time learning all that stuff?
But if you're following your passion, you actually do want to learn to read and write, because you want to be able to read about your passionate subject. So we didn't force him to learn. He just taught himself.
Yeah. So, you know, I think the model of education is sadly lacking, because it's not primarily about consciousness. I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, and then he says, well, why don't we study consciousness at school and university? And surely that's primary. Your consciousness is foundational to everything. How you thinking, how you perceiving. This is absolutely essential. And no one studies it, because in the scientific materialist world, they don't really understand it. They can't frame it. They can't go, oh, well, consciousness is this and this is what, and we can't kind of frame it and say there it is and define it. So it's a subject that doesn't get addressed, but that it should actually be primary. Okay, so how do you use your mind? How do you pay attention? You know, mindfulness, things like meditation. Let's train you to focus your mind. Let's train you to go into altered states of mind, so you can get these ideas. You can be more creative, and you can think outside the box. You know, this is hugely valuable. Why don't we have that as a primary subject? That's foundational. Everyone must take it, and you have a class in it every day where, you know, you do, call it whatever you want, mindfulness or consciousness growth, or, you know, focused attention, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, some of my students are taking it into schools now. You know, they're teachers, so they're doing it under the radar on a regular basis.
Yeah, well, but it shouldn't really have to be under the radar. It should be like, no, this is absolutely part of the curriculum. But if you did actually have a generation who were taught to think this way, then you see society's going to change. Whole generation will come in and go, no, all these systems and structures and processes, no, this is much better way of doing this. Let's re-engineer it. And the powers that be, they don't want people who are going to do that and challenge the status quo. They want people who just follow the existing system, and are taught to obey authority. Don't question the teachers, don't question your parents. Just do what you're told. Be a good boy or girl. You know, follow the rules, and you'll be okay, and you'll be safe. That's what they want. not the Steve Jobses of the world who go out and challenge things and create different things and disrupt industries. And because you put, look at the power of one man like that. Imagine if you had 1,000 Steve Jobses floating around, going, okay, well, let's see what we can do. Very change agents. They're gonna shake things up and change things and disrupt, existing control systems. A lot of people don't know he was nearly arrested because Apple's first product was a product that hacked into AT&T's phone lines and allowed people to make phone calls illegally. They thought this was a great idea, and then they got kind of caught and told, you gotta shut that down because otherwise you go to jail. But there was a disruption element. They were like, okay, we're gonna disrupt the existing players, and then they moved on to trying to create computers after that. But they're thinking out the box. So why do I want to show you this? Because on the if the culture changes, individual intention, like a Steve Jobs, such a powerful individual intention that he inspires an entire culture. So that's an entire group of people in this organization called Apple. And that culture now gets manifested out as the behavior of people, individuals, and then the patterns of behavior in that organization, which become systems. And so now you get organizational structure and the processes and everything that makes Apple actually work and allow them to produce the products they do. But the culture has been instrumental in forming that. So it's like a morphic field. Rupert Sheldrake calls this the morphic field. What's on the interior, and that is a field of energy that has shaped that entire organization or that entire society, that entire system. And it's intangible. You can't see it and go, there's the morphic field, and we can see it, feel it, measure it, touch it. But it's what shaped the whole thing. It's the driving force behind it. And this is what scientific materialists don't acknowledge, because they think that it's the form that is the only tangible thing, it's the only reality. And they've divorced themselves from the interior domains. And they say, no, there is no interior domain. The extreme of scientific materialism, they don't even acknowledge that there's a mind, that there's this kind of intangible field that actually directs things and creates behavior and systems on the level of form. They don't even see that. They just go, flatland is behavior and systems are it, and there's nothing really, there's no causative factor. I mean, isn't that just, it's such a disconnected system causatively, because then what causes it? They can't really answer that. What causes behavior? What causes systems? What drives all of this thing? They can't really explain that. And so, we live in a system that's divorced from true causation because of that. Because scientific materialism is saying, no, there's no cause, only these exterior domains, systems and behavior, what we can observe, see, feel, measure, touch, taste with our senses is real. And so there's no explanation as to the causation of it then. And so, what we're doing here is going into causation, saying, well, what's causation? Causation is in the mind. Let's look at the true causation of everything, which is in our minds, and let's change our minds. Seek not to change the world, said Yeshua. So don't seek to change the exterior, that's what he was saying, framed in integral model language. But seek to change your mind about the world. Seek to change the internal, the interior domain, your individual interior of your values and your motivations and your thoughts and emotions and feelings and everything that happens internally. Seek to change that, because that will change the exterior, because that's the way it works, which this model shows quite clearly. So come back to your business. What you want is an integral business that really embedded into the business is this understanding that it's interior, inside out. My interior, my thoughts, my emotions are driving my behavior and are going to drive the way this business flows forward, the systems, the structures, the processes, the tools. And then it's integral. And then when you have integrity, then all of these four quadrants are in alignment. And then things flow nicely. Then there's no disconnects, there's no dysfunctions. A system that's out of integrity is where there's dysfunction. And there's a lack of agreement between the interior and the exterior. And those are actually out of accord. That's the definition of lack of integrity, my definition. When the intentions and the behavior are not in alignment, then you lack integrity. Personally, in a system, if the culture, collective interior, and the systems are not in alignment, then there's a lack of integrity in the whole system. So we could look at our world, our society, and say there's a lack of integrity in the system, in the whole society, because there's not alignment between the deepest purpose of human life, which is to awaken spiritually, and the ways that society operates. There's a misalignment. There's like society's operating on a different system. A different thought system is directing it. So misalignment between true purpose and the form of these systems, which is our task to correct, I believe. If everyone starts becoming aligned, then it's inevitable that the systems will start to become aligned, and we will manifest systems that are much more reflective of our inner world, of our true inner world, and of what's really important. Okay, any thoughts on that? Questions, comments?
No, it just feels so true.
Okay, so let's have a look at today's quote and around it, and then we'll go into the lesson. So
smart men walked on the moon, daring men walked on the ocean floor, but wise men walk with God.
Yeah, nice quote. So the truly wise men, walk with this power we call God, rather than trying to find the external accomplishments, worldly accomplishments, and adventure. So you want to read the next paragraph?
Today's inspirational quote tells us that what all the truly wise men of history did. Contrast this with what other men who believed more in the value of worldly accomplishments and adventure tried to do with their time here. If you pause and reflect on why you would want to walk on the moon or ocean floor rather than focusing on finding God or love in your own mind, it becomes obvious that these so-called accomplishments of the ego are just distractions from the real accomplishment, which is to discover who you really are and allow yourself to be continuously guided by this self, so you can ultimately leave this world and universe behind permanently when you finally lay your body aside.
Okay, any thoughts on that?
Well, I see we're kind of here to play a game, aren't we? And so surely some of the game is to lose ourselves, to find ourselves again. So maybe the walking on the moon is a way of having an activity in the human form. Then maybe when you're in that situation, you get a new view of life. So yeah,
quite possibly. I think if you went to the moon and you saw the Earth, a lot of astronauts described quite deeply spiritual experiences. They saw the unity, they saw oneness. Because literally they're getting the bird's eye view of the whole planet from a distance. It gives them a different perspective on the whole thing. So there's always God is with you wherever, even if the accomplishment was a worldly one. I mean, why was there a space race? Why did the US want to get to the moon before the Russians? Because it was part of the Cold War. They were like, well, we want to be one up on you, we want to be better. That was really the driving force. But even in that, there's a possibility of experiencing anything from a different perspective, from a spiritual perspective as well. So some of those astronauts might well have had some quite moving experiences in space. I'm sure they did. I think I actually read somewhere, one of them said, well, if only people could go to space, if everyone could go to space, the world would change, because they would get a different perspective on it from outer space. You see that it's one planet, one world. We share it. It's so obvious. Unity becomes obvious then. We share this one home, and if we mess it up, then well, we all perish. And so it raises you above the limitations of the ego's separation and thinking, I'm just a person in my little country, and I'm separate from other countries, and now we're going to fight. Well, looked at from a distance. Because that song was it a Bette Midler song, From a Distance. That just came to me. It looks very different. But still, I mean, like now they're talking about going to Mars. Well, why would you bother, really? That's a huge amount of effort. For what purpose? Spending billions and billions of dollars to go to this planet to do some experiments. You'll bring some soil back. You go, oh, we learned something about Mars. Yeah, great. But we know it's uninhabitable. We know that human life can't sustain there. So, what's the point? And honestly, there isn't really any point. The true journey is inward. Who am I really? Not what can I do and what can I achieve. Who am I at the deepest core, and that's the inner journey, inner space that the truly wise men, mystics and saints and masters and so on have gone to explore that and said, this is the most interesting of anything. Forget the external exploration. It's exploration of my mind and this inner world, and I don't really understand very much about it. So let me go and explore and experience what's actually going on inside there. And that's the spiritual journey.
I used to get this experience that if I was in a passenger seat of a car and I was driving along, and I'd get this feeling like we were all ants on the earth, running around with all these stories about what we've got to carry where, what we've got to go when, and rush, 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 hurry, hurry, hurry. Just looking at humans running around. They got to work on time, or they got to whatever. And I could see them all like little ants, just very busy. And I felt like the person looking down on the anthill going, you just got no idea of the bigger vision, have you? You just can't see that you're just a little ant in a little anthill running around, making up a story in your head about why you've got to do what you've got to do, just lost in it all. I don't know if it really helped me having that vision, but that's what I used to have.
Yeah, I think there's a true insight there, because that is how many human beings live their lives. Busy, doing, not really knowing the deeper purpose or meaning. Just, okay, well, what's the immediate task? What do I have to do? What do I have to get done today? And like, is that really what we're born for? Is that really the ultimate truth? Is that really going to make us happy, living that way? And I think the answer is very clear. That doesn't. It's just we become human doings. We become rooted in doing and in the scientific materialism of the exterior world. And it just becomes about, okay, well, I need to get a task done. I need to do this because on the external level, I need to make money. I need to pay my bills. I want to accomplish this particular goal that's important to me. And so it becomes about doing. And we forget the deeper roots in being in our mind. Okay, but actually what's really important? I am primarily, I am fundamentally a being first. And my doing comes out of my being. So behavior follows intention, stated another way. Not the other way around. Don't let the doing and the behavior, the form outcomes drive it, because then you disconnect from your being and you forget that you're fundamentally a being, that you have this fundamental awareness or being. And when we become disconnected from that, then we create all kinds of problems and pain and suffering, because we've disconnected from our source and we don't know who we are anymore. Lost touch with our own fundamental awareness. It's bizarre. How can that happen? But it seems to happen to most people, that you can disconnect from your own awareness of who you really are. This is the crazy world of the ego, the paradox we have to resolve. Okay, so you want to continue? In other words, your true task.
In other words, your true task as a human being and only achievement of any real value is enlightenment, or as Yeshua calls it in A Course in Miracles, salvation. All the truly wise men and women who have ever lived have clearly seen this truth and have therefore dedicated themselves only to this purpose and task without distracting themselves by pursuing all kinds of external goals that really lead them nowhere.
So this is the hallmark of, the great teachers, masters, people like Yeshua, Buddha, Lao Tzu. They really dedicated themselves to one purpose. You could see that very clearly in their life. Everything else dropped away, and it was this one overriding purpose of truth that they stood for. They taught it. They lived it, sometimes to the point of their death. It took them to their physical death. But there was a very clearly a deep dedication to that one path, and they renounced all other paths. So they were no longer fulfilling a worldly function. Yeshua stopped his family life, and he stopped his business. He had a carpentry business. He gave all that up and said, "No, I'm just gonna do this. Focus 100% on this teaching this truth, being a teacher of God." Buddha the same, gives up everything. He gave up a very pleasurable life. He had everything given to him. He could have lived a life of luxury, and he just said, "No, I'm giving this up because this isn't fulfilling me at a deeper level." And he went in search of the truth. And when he found it, what could he do but teach it for the next 45 years? That's what he dedicated his life to. So there have been, some very amazing teachers, amazingly dedicated people who said, "Okay, this is it. This is what the purpose of my life is," and we can now benefit. This has come down to us over thousands of years of spiritual teachings from these great people who dedicated their lives to it because they realized this was the only thing that was of importance, really. So that doesn't mean that they just lived as hermits. People, you're just going to live in a cave and separate yourself. Actually, the truly great spiritual teachers like Yeshua and the Buddha, they actually were quite active in society. They engaged with people and they taught them. They became teachers, ministers or teachers of God, and dedicated their lives to helping others to find God as their own pure formless awareness or innermost essence. That was, any great teacher understood that this is where it's at. It's just there. It's within them, and it's just teaching people that this awareness is in them, and that's the true empowerment of people. So it's not anything outside. They're not asking them to believe in a concept of God. They're asking them to get in touch with their own true awareness or innermost essence. And they knew that in doing this, they were also helping themselves. Because the more you teach it, the more you learn it. Now, I've definitely seen that over the last 4 years of really immersing myself in this teaching. There's no doubt it's taken my own understanding to a different level. Because you can't speak it and teach it and live it and not absorb it. You learn what you teach. It's inevitable. Sometimes I'll say things and you go, "Oh, okay, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that before." And it comes out in the teaching. So my guess is in your download, you're getting something along these lines. This is, what you've got to do. You become a teacher of God and just reorient your business so it's more around teaching of the ultimate truth and love, and then the form will, follow that intention.
Yeah. Right. In yesterday's lesson, when you showed the picture of the 4 teachers and you said, I don't know if you said or I realized that they're just normal human beings and they just got out of their own way and let the energy flow through them. And that's what made them teachers of God. And then suddenly realized, well, everyone can do that. Anyone can do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. The only qualification was they had this internal connection with their source, and they listened to it and they honored that and only that, and they allowed that to direct the course of their lives. And over 2,500 years, that has become embedded. That inspiration they felt into the teachings of whatever it was, Buddhism, Taoism. These came from one person originally. just tapping in and saying, okay, I'm gonna dedicate my life to teaching this. It's great truth. And then we have these spiritual teachings that wouldn't have come into being if it weren't for those individuals following their own way. Because it was formative thousands of years ago, people go, oh, well, they were somehow special because this was kind of the foundations of our spiritual life as we know it. But they were just listening. They just tapped in. They listened, and I think our task now is, well, take the same inspiration and use it to teach people. You might not establish another religion. I think maybe we're beyond that. We don't want more religions. We just want a greater awareness, a greater people accessing this true awareness, this pure formless awareness in themselves, and awakening to that, and that remains the central task of any teacher of God. It hasn't changed in thousands of years. It's the same task to awaken people, and arguably we're more asleep now than ever in today's world because we've gone on this path of scientific materialism and saying, well, the answer lies in form and in developing technology that makes our form, existence, and identity stronger and seemingly better. We got more lost than ever because we've disconnected from source and said, no, well, actually we're not a mind. It's all about the form and the behavior, and the technology now becomes more important than actually our own innermost self and who we really are. So it remains the primary task. And now the interesting thing is, well, how can you use what's here, this technology that we have, that we're using right now to communicate? How can you use that to do the will of God and really spread this teaching? And it's like any technology, can be used for either the ego's purposes or the spirit's purposes. So why not use it for the spirits? And for me, that's the whole point. The spiritual interpretation of this technology is, it's a communication vehicle, communication device, which allows minds to communicate and allows the truth to really get out there, and it can really accelerate this awakening process because of this technology and our ability to share information, ideas, in such an easy, quick way now. This is information technology. This can communicate information very quickly and easily on a mass scale, very cheaply. It doesn't cost a lot to publish this information. Before, you had to publish a book and you had to have paper and you had to have a whole printing process. Now it's like, right, instantly published online, and it's available to the whole world. There we go. Amazing. So that's kind of interesting and exciting if you're a teacher of God, to say, well, how can I use that? How can the Spirit use that to help me fulfill my function? So you might say, well, what does this mean in practice, and how do I actually live in a way that teaches us the truth? Because this is where the rubber meets the road. There's Iona. Great. So do you want to read the next paragraph?
Fortunately, as today's A Course in Miracle workbook lessons for review state clearly, you don't have to know the answers right now. You just have to be willing to let go of your own ideas about what you should be doing in your life and surrender to the guidance of the Holy Spirit, which is your own remembrance of perfect love that can reinterpret the events and circumstances of your life for you and use them for the purpose of awakening and other people to the knowledge of this presence.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, Iona.
Hi, Jono. Hi, Sally.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the room. Haven't seen you for a few days. Are you still in Edinburgh? Where are you? Looks like you're in Edinburgh. And there's Lucy.
Edinburgh.
Hi, Lucy.
Hiya.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, lots going on here, and it's lovely.
Good. How was your photo shoot? Oh yeah, we're actually just talking about Apple, but funny enough.
Are we being is this on YouTube?
Yeah, it's being recorded. You You don't want to share anything. Okay. So that's fine. Like to hear about it.
All good. Yeah.
All good.
All good. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So welcome. We're just going through today's little message, and then we'll get into the lesson. So any thoughts on that paragraph, Sally?
Well, I was just thinking today, because I run these 6-week courses and we focus on different subjects, and I'm doing the joy course at the moment. I was just thinking how joyful it is every morning when I wake up to just download anything that comes through me to the group. And like you say, through technology, I'm on a thing called Marco Polo. So you just put a video on and everybody hears it. And I mean, I didn't know anything about joy, but that's what I'm going to do. And it all just flowed through me. And yeah, I just feel very blessed that there is that guidance that just leads the course.
Yeah, the guidance leads you to to do whatever it is that needs to happen on the level of form. So okay, course in joy. It's coming from the joy in you that wants to extend and express, and then you learn joy in the teaching of it. Oh, okay, so this is what joy feels like. It's a very kind of expansive, expressive energy, isn't it? It's like, I just want to share that. It's not, peace is more like internal. Okay, I've got this deep peace, just quiet in myself. It's always like I want to radiate that out, because it has that sort of feeling to it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's been lovely, because I've just been picking different subjects as we go along, and so the next one's empowerment. I know very little about empowerment as well, so that will be interesting to see how that shows up.
Yeah, it's all about the internal. So all of those are values. These are courses in values, really. How do you live that value and express it and feel it, connect with it, and then express it and extend it in your life? And so inside out. So that's what people need to learn, really. How to be integral in life, to be in integrity. It's like how do you take that value, and how do you actually live that? That's integrity. How do you live it in your daily life? So you embody joy, you embody empowerment. This is what it means to live an integral life. Okay. So moving on, let's ask Iona to read the next paragraph. How this looks and plays out on the level of form.
How this looks and plays out on the level of form will be different for every teacher of God, depending on their unique talents, abilities, and life circumstances. The Holy Spirit's use of your unique talents, abilities, and life situation is the unfolding of your higher purpose, or in ACIM terminology, your special function, to discover and live fully while you are seemingly human. Shall I carry on?
No, pause it there. Any thoughts on that?
I keep thinking. I was thinking about the phrase being done through by Holy Spirit, and how kind of deeply wonderful that is. And I think particularly actually in the last 3 or 4 days that I have been really aware of this message, that it's different for every teacher of God. I've been with Lucy and another very powerful woman, and it's different for all of us, yet there is this sort of wonderful intermingling of unique talent, abilities, and life circumstance. And the kind of wonderment of being brought together, feeling that it's orchestrated.
Yeah. So it's a special function, because there's still the element of specialness in that. Yes, you on the level of form, you seem to have unique talents. Your life situation is unique to you. There's no one else on the entire planet who has exactly the same set of circumstances, talents, abilities. So then the Spirit says, okay, that's all fine. We can use what the ego's made. It's all part of the ego's construct of specialness, but it will be used for the purposes of awakening now. So that becomes your special function, the reinterpretation of all of the special abilities, talents, and life situation the ego's made to help you to awaken and help others to awaken.
Yeah.
And so that becomes your higher purpose. And that's the best you can do in this world. Use the specialness for the only purpose it has, which is unity. And when you do that, you come into true purpose and you feel inspired and you're done through, and joy and happiness are just part of your experience, because you can't not be happy and joyful when you're being done through by the Spirit. So instead of seeking happiness, which most people are doing, I could get a bit of happiness there or get a bit of happiness there, and it's kind of this grasping, and it's a black hole, really. It's never ending, seeking and desiring and craving and never actually experiencing it. Instead, you surrender into the Spirit and you allow yourself to be done through, and then you can actually live a very interesting life. Lots of interesting experiences, meeting interesting people, being guided to do interesting things. It's hardly dull. It's actually really interesting and exciting on some level. But it's all being directed by the Spirit.
Isn't it?
It's interesting because I get quite a bit of ego projection around that. Lucy, you have and you should be more X, Y, and Z. And I've just had that all my life, that somehow this way of operating, which is very much in the moment, I would say, mostly, and responding, but it doesn't look like a life that you think you're meant, people think you're meant to have, where you're one place, you show up, people know what to expect. They don't. And my human design is not a very expected human design. It is full of surprises, really. But to actually inhabit that and not then go into shame because it doesn't fit some model that I do love that people, people close who really see me say, or really see that I just feel like a cat that has several lives really going on at the same time. In a way, but it's not that. It's like it's in the moment. But yeah, it's good to hear that. It's good to hear that. And
well, it's not normal. Normal is egoic. Normal is controlled. Normal is not inspired. So that normal is very much in the box, in the known world of the ego. Not awaken, not having undertaken a hero's journey, not being willing to challenge convention, not ever going outside of that very narrow way of living and saying, no, well, actually there's a totally different way I could be. And society doesn't support that. People don't encourage you to go and just float around, just dream, just be inspired. I mean, your parents don't give you that message generally, do they? So no, what you're going to do for a living? Do you actually have a job? Are you earning any money? What's your bank account like? I mean, I've had these questions. You probably have too.
Definitely. And are you progressing?
The kind of questions you get asked, and it's difficult to often answer.
It is. You're like that too, Jono, yeah?
Yeah. It's always been on the fringes. I'm an outlier. It's like I haven't followed the normal career path at all. I gave it all up. I had it all made according to my father. At the age of 21, I had, done a degree, and I could have carried on and done my graduate diploma in accounting and, followed the system, and I would have got a good corporate job, and I would have worked my way up the ladder, and I would have had 2.5 kids living in the suburbs with a house valued at nice, and I would have had a holiday house, and I would have played the game, and it would have all been amazing. That would have been an amazing life. He's saying, "Wait, you messed it all up."
Yeah.
I went, no, I didn't want it. I spent at that age. It was a trap. It's a huge trap. And fortunately, I decided, no, I'm gonna make a different choice here.
Yeah.
And I went and played professional squash, which was my I had to do something. I couldn't just drop out and do nothing. That would have been very hard to defend. I said, no, I want to do this, and if I want to do this, and now I'm 21. Now's the time. I can't do it in 10 years' time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're gonna do this in your 20s, not in your 30s.
Yeah.
And if I'd spent another 3 years doing the corporate grind, I would have been 24. Well, that's very old to become a professional squash player, extremely old. So I took the plunge and I went, okay, and that decision absolutely changed my life. It was probably the first real letting go experience I had at 21, because I just let go of all of that expectation, what I was expected to do, and the whole life path. I just went, no, that's not what I want. I'm gonna do something else, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't made that decision way back in my early 20s. So that's how it goes. It's cumulative. It's a cumulative effect of your decisions leads you on a different path, and you become more of an outlier in society.
Yes.
And that's okay. You've got to embrace. No, I'm not normal. If people call me normal, I'm like, no, I'm not normal. I get it. I'm not normal. It's fine. I don't want to be normal. I'm just being inspired. I'm living the truth and trying to follow the guidance, and that doesn't look how other people want it to look. Well, so be it. So be it. Think of we're talking about the ministers or teachers of God like Yeshua and the Buddha and Lao Tzu. I mean, they didn't lead normal lives. Quite the opposite. Dropped out of their existing life. Yeshua decided, no, I'm not going to be a carpenter anymore. And I'm sure his mother, and so what are you doing? You're a carpenter, and how are you going to earn a living? And how's this all going to work? And you can be sure those sorts of sentiments were expressed. And he said, no, I'm just following, the will of God. I'm going to do what I feel called to do, and God will provide. And the Buddha left his very cushy life. He was a prince. And he had everything. His father had given him every possible luxury that was available. Could have had a sort of really sheltered, cushy life. We didn't have to work ever. Loads of servants and luxuries, and he gave it all up. He said, "No, this isn't going to fulfill me at all." Abandoned his family. He had a wife and a child. I mean, I'm sure you can imagine the comments about that. Oh, he's abandoned his family. He's being irresponsible. What kind of a husband and father is he being? I'm sure his family were ashamed of him, but he followed his guidance. That was what he felt like he had to do to awaken. So one does become an outlier, no doubt, and you have to embrace that. Go, it's okay, and really become field independent. So your locus of control is internal. It's like whatever anyone else thinks of you doesn't matter.
Field independence.
Yeah, you're not dependent on the social construct, on the field, the matrix for your identity and for your guidance.
Yeah.
You're able to think for yourself, and then you do become an outlier. You become someone who stands out, even though it's kind of paradoxical because you're trying to be one with everyone. You stand out of the normal, unawakened crowd because you think differently and you act differently, and people can sense a different energy coming through you. And we need to embrace that, not feel ashamed of that. That's that's being outstanding in the spirit and shining your light. Yesterday's quote: "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, which most frightens us." We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. I mean, what a brilliant line. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. There's the field independence. Just be willing to shine your light and awaken others. Your own journey of liberation from fear is helping others to liberate themselves from fear.
Yeah.
So that's that's what we do in the room. That's about supporting each other. We're all outliers, and that's we embrace that and we support each other. It's like good, and the interaction of outliers can be very, very interesting.
Mhm.
If a group of outliers start to do collaborate, then watch out, because things are going to happen.
Watch out.
Yeah, watch out, Will, because stuff's going to move and shift, and this is how the Spirit works in the world.
Yes, definitely.
When two or more come together in my name, said Yeshua, then I will be there. The power of the Holy Spirit will be guiding all things. So yeah, I'm looking forward to our engagement next week. It's almost upon us.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's just kind of come together miraculously. There were times I'm like, is this ever going to work?
Yeah.
But it seems to. The bookings keep coming in, so.
Oh, good.
Ooh, how many have you got so far?
All good. I think there are about 11 or 12 in Glasgow, 4 or 5 in Stonehaven. Finland's a bit lagging behind, but maybe that's just because people haven't formally done it. There's 1 in Marcousy and 2 on the Thursday, so we need to get those numbers up a bit. But
Well, I put on just Facebook just this morning, Park Connected, about Marcousy and
great.
Marcousy and the Sunshine Room, and the Stonehaven numbers bumped up because we were working with a group of 6 people, and 4 or 5 said they wanted to go.
Great.
Yeah.
I saw some bookings coming through. That's great.
Great
So
stuff.
you got my email this morning. Did you share? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. That's what I was working on.
Yeah. Great. So everything's there. If you just refer people to those
Yeah, I did.
websites for each one, they can register, and then they'll get automatic confirmations, and so on and so on. Just put the word out as much as you can. Okay. So where were we?
Jono, I have to say, I've just been given an appointment at 2:30 with a wonderful woman close to Lucy's flat, and she's never in town, and suddenly this appointment opened up at 2:30. So I'm going to go at maybe 2:15.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's good to drop in. I think it'll be an hour.
Yeah, be an
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we can get this done. There's a bit of this to do, and then we'll go into the lesson, which is just a review lesson. So it's very short, and the meditation. So where are we? No other person. If you want to read this, Lucy, no other person can tell you what your special function is.
No other person can tell you what your special function is or what you should do next. So be wary of asking others, even spiritual teachers whose opinion you respect, for specific advice, because ultimately only the Holy Spirit, which, remember, is just your own awareness of perfect love or oneness, can guide you truly in all directions.
That's so interesting. Did you see what you did there?
No. What did I do?
Read it again.
No other person can tell you what you. I'm going to look out for it now. No other person can tell you what your special function is or what you should do next. So be wary of asking others, even spiritual teachers whose opinion you respect, for specific advice, because ultimately only the Holy Spirit, which, remember, is just your own awareness of perfect love or oneness, can guide you truly in all your decisions.
Did you know what you said the first time?
No.
Can guide you truly in all directions.
Hilarious. Great. Well, I'm kind of either genius or freaky.
Guide you truly in all directions.
Okay,
well, that's Lucy, isn't it? It's like, oh, where are we going to go next?
Yeah. Oh my God.
What's so interesting is if you change the words, notice how you change them, because it happens quite often. People read and they change it into something else, and I go, oh, okay. Well, what's that saying then? How's your mind interpreting that? So
yeah,
I think for you, my comments on that would just be focus on one guided direction. So you're not splitting yourself in multiple directions, because that's the tendency, isn't it?
Well, it is, but again, like as we were saying a minute ago, it's like the perception is that can't be done, and I do it really well, but it means that I don't necessarily, I mean, I have to look to my own happiness in that, really. It's like, does that make me happy? Yeah, often it does. And I think being a facilitator of magic and miraculousness is wonderful. And maybe it's just a case of kind of condensing it so it has a shape that is that what I am intrinsically, my energy wants to do is the function somehow, is the
yeah, could be. So
could be.
Just ask for the guidance. How do I be really useful? How do I take this and it's really useful in the one purpose, which is awakening for myself and for everyone else.
Yeah.
Now remember, primarily yourself. It's your own awakening, number one, first.
Yeah.
Because if you don't awaken, no one else awakens. So, and then you might find some interesting guidance, and you just kind of get directed into a way that is a bit more channeled and focused, and more more effective for this purpose. But part of the journey is exploration. So to say, oh well, I'm gonna cut that out, and that's often not how it works. You need to go on the exploration to figure out actually what it is that you should be doing next.
Yeah.
And there is a kind of multi-dimensionality to it. I know that feeling where you got multiple things going on, and somehow it's all kind of flowing into one. All the disparate pieces can actually be channelized, to use that American term Yeshua uses.
Channelized. That's fancy.
Yeah, it's not really a British word, I don't think, but he used it once or twice. Channelized. It's directed in one channel, all of these different streams of your life. And I think that's what we're trying to do with this teaching. And it just goes into a beautiful flow, and then you start working with other people who are doing the same thing, and then the merging of that energy. If you all in the the inspired Holy Spirit state, then what's possible. Miracles are absolutely possible. So we'll see what unfolds next week, but it wouldn't have been possible if 3 people hadn't collaborated in the venture and said, okay, let's do this together, and the kind of meeting of minds, and we've all done our part. It wouldn't have come together. So just the process that's the whole point. Never mind about the outcome. If no one books for the retreat, well, okay, it's all right. we learn something in the process. But often on the level of form, outcomes come when the energy is right. So then you trust that if you're really in the right flow of the energy, then that the outcome will come in a guided, miraculous way. Much more so than if you're it's all about getting X number of people on a retreat, or it's not really about that. Actually, the process itself that's the learning. Which is what the essence of the flow is. When you're in the process, you're in the flow, you learn the most. You learn to connect with the spirit, and you learn to trust it, and you learn to allow it to unfold through you. And in that, is learning for you and everyone else involved. And then the form outcome kind of takes care of itself. If you're operating on that level, the outcomes are generally going to be inspired and miraculous and beneficial. So we'll see how it all unfolds.
Rock on, Tommy.
It's going to be fun. Okay, so where are we? Therefore, a major part of this hero's journey. Iona, if you can read that.
Okay. Therefore, a major part of this hero's journey you're undertaking, by committing to living your special function on earth, is to learn to recognize the voice of the Holy Spirit, or awareness of love, and listen only to its guidance about what you should be saying and doing in every situation, because it has a unique ability to reinterpret every situation from a perspective of perfect oneness and tell you how you should respond to each situation from this perspective only. Yeah,
makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
This is the mind training. Yeshua is training us just to do this, to listen to the one voice, the one interpretation of every situation, and be guided by that voice through the maze of separation. You're still going to have stuff occurring on the level of form, but how you interpret it becomes singular. One thought system directing it. And that's why we train our minds, because it requires a lot of mind training to be that singular in a world that's seemingly so separated. Okay. Moving swiftly on then to the next one. Sally, if you can read that. Therefore, it is the only guide.
Therefore, it's the only guide that can help you live an inspired life in this world while staying connected to the transcendent world or reality that all the great spiritual teachers have spoken about, and not allowing the values of the world to dictate your thoughts, words, and actions. It's also the only guide that can help you respond perfectly to any seeming problem or crisis, as it knows exactly what you are capable of doing to heal the underlying problem, which is always a belief in separation by the ego mind, part of your mind. No, I've never really clocked that before, that it kind of knows what you can do. Yeah, I've not noticed that before.
It knows exactly how to respond to any seeming problem. Because the problem's already been solved, you see. It's a problem. Another way of looking at the Course is problem solving. This is a problem solving technique that's miraculous, that's on another level, that already knows the problem is solved, already knows how that problem is going to be solved. Simply goes to the state of mind where there's no problem, and then allows that state of mind to direct the resolution of the problem. So you see how you're playing with time. It says at the beginning of the Course, the miracle is the only device you have for controlling time. For this reason, because you go in to the timeless state of being, God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness. Any problem that seems to crop up in time, you let it go, and you go into this awareness. And so you're going into a timeless state. You experience the answer. The answer is right now. I experience the peace. I experience peace. I experience love. I'm happy. And now I come back into form, and I'm able to see that problem differently. And I will think about it differently, and I'll respond differently. And so then the resolution of the problem unfolds in time, because you went into a timeless state. And so you collapsed time. This is the quickest problem-solving method. It's just training us. So another way of viewing the Course would be advanced problem-solving. Well, a different way of approaching the seemingly inevitable problems of the world. Because the problem, see, what he's identified is that there's only one problem, and that's your belief in separation. So then there's only really one answer in every situation, and that's to go to oneness. And then how does that oneness interpret your particular problem in your life situation at that point? Well, that then becomes the answer on the level of form. That's then what unfolds. And then that directs your life on the level of form, your thoughts, words, and actions very differently. And so then the Holy Spirit manifests. We could say the Holy Spirit manifests, but actually it's just coming from the deeper awareness of truth, that then somehow this Holy Spirit function in your mind can interpret the illusion, but interpret it from the perspective of oneness. That's its genius, and that's what its function is in this world, as an interpreter, so that you can be in the world but not of the world. You're not directed by the ego's thought system anymore, but you can still operate, in fact, very effectively, miraculously in the world while you're here, on a level that the ego can't really conceive of. And that's again a benefit of the mind training, is you can become very powerful in the world, very effective in what you're doing. You become a miracle worker. Okay. So, any thoughts on that? Otherwise, let's move swiftly on. In case you hadn't noticed, so Iona or Lucy, are you still there?
Yep.
Early away.
No, still
Okay. In case you hadn't noticed, the world is in something of a crisis at the moment.
In case you hadn't noticed, the world is in something of a crisis at the moment. Apart from the seemingly normal threats we've got used to over the years, the rapid destruction and pollution of the natural environment that sustains all life on this planet, global warming and nuclear war. We've just had a global pandemic that's ongoing as the supposed virus continues to mutate. Vaccinations that have been, oh, that's clever that I was thinking that the course had talked about this. Thought it'd be pretty amazing. We've just had a global pandemic that's ongoing as the supposed virus continues to mutate. Vaccinations that haven't been properly clinically trialed being administered on an unprecedented mass scale, increasing levels of governmental control around the world in response to the apparent virus and the rapid evolution of artificial intelligence that Elon Musk has said is a fundamental risk to the existence of human civilization. To name just some of the more prominent recent apparent threats the ego has invented to our health and well-being.
Mm-hmm. So you look at all that, it seems to be, rather disastrous, really.
Yeah.
And very threatening and very fearful. And if you focus on form, then how can you ever have peace of mind? Fear would seem to be very justified with all this going.
Yeah.
So it's very tempting to lose hope and think that we're doomed. Humanity is inevitably doomed to go the way of the dinosaur in the next century or two. But that's just the egoic perspective. The crisis into which we've worked ourselves, the species over the last few thousand years, is a call and an opportunity to break through into a new level of awareness of perfect love or oneness that is the Holy Spirit. Because it's surely obvious to anyone with even a half open mind. I think the value of COVID has been it's opened a lot of people up to really look at our world and go, wow, actually I didn't really see the dysfunction before, but I can see it now. So that this ego, just the belief in separation, that's miscreated this whole world, and our seemingly separate identities as human beings with bodies, is a complete disaster. It doesn't work. It's a disaster, and it produced all of this dysfunction and suffering and sickness and pain and death, and other life on this planet is being affected by it as well. This is a thought system of death. So what can you expect but death and disaster from such a thought system? And that's becoming evidently apparent in the manifestation of our society. The more dysfunctional it becomes, the more obviously we start to have to question the entire thought system that generated all of these problems. So the beauty of it is we no longer have the luxury of indulging in the ego's thought system for another 1,000 years. We can't fiddle around in the ego anymore because its destructive effects are so apparent that we must change. It's become obvious we must change our collective mind or we will perish. We'll kill ourselves. So, could you really have asked for a better nudge from the universe to awaken than the crisis we're currently facing? If the purpose of your life is awakening, the only purpose, you come into a time where that awakening is being stimulated by the environment, big time, in a way possibly that hasn't happened in human history. So it's all perfect in its apparent imperfection. Could you really ask for a higher purpose for your life than to become a leader of this awakening by demonstrating it to everyone whose life you touch? That's why we're here. So in the crisis, there is our purpose. We're here because there's a crisis, and what's needed is spiritual teachers who will awaken people from the ego stupor and save the world, as Yeshua would put it. Awaken the world. So this Winston Churchill quote, which I mentioned before, but it's a good one in this context. And he came in a time of crisis, and he found his purpose in that crisis. His purpose was to counter the evil that was threatened to overwhelm the world. So we have the same purpose, just in a different time, and it's going to play out in a different way for us in this world compared with 80 years ago. But it's the same purpose. So Iona, if you can read that, to every man Actually translated. Maybe next time I'll translate it, although he didn't say it. To every person.
To every person, there comes in their life that special moment that is figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered a chance to do a very special thing, unique to that person and fitted to that person's talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds that person unprepared or unqualified for that, which would be that person's finest hour.
Mm-hmm.
Winston Churchill.
Stirring stuff.
Well,
but he wasn't that great a dude, was he?
Why not?
Because he sent so many young men to their deaths.
Winston Churchill.
Yeah, didn't he?
No, that was in World War One in Gallipoli.
Yeah.
So he made his mistakes for sure.
Good.
No doubt. But in that time, he was exactly the perfect person for that time, for that hour. It needed someone, and all the mistakes were part of his learning. So all I think he came to some great spiritual realizations through his journey.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, he's quite a spiritual guy actually.
Yes.
Tapping in, you had to be. I mean, you're dealing with, a very dark evil. You have to have a sense of, I'm doing this for a higher cause. And that came through in his words and his writings very clearly. And so he inspired the whole British nation to fight the good fight and say, no, we won't just accept that, evil will overcome us. We must fight this, which was necessary at the time. I don't think there was any other way of dealing with that that crisis. So even on the level of form, that's the interesting thing. You say, oh well, he was involved in a war, but the spirit will find the appropriate way to solve the problem in that situation. In the Bhagavad Gita, if you're familiar with that teaching, a lot of that came in a war. It was Krishna teaching his disciple Arjuna, and they were like on the battlefield, and he's giving him lessons, and he's saying, well, actually, if you have to fight, then you fight, and you don't fight in an idea of separation, and you don't hate your enemy. You fight because that's what you have to do, and you do what you have to do, and you do it with courage and dignity. So even in that situation, the Holy Spirit found a way to resolve the problem. It required a world war, but so be it. So you can never say, the form outcome is not what it's about. It's about tapping into the spirit and really listening to the guidance. And that's what Churchill did in his time. So he's saying, well, a message for future generations. Don't shy away from this. When the call comes, listen to this. This is another way of framing the hero's journey, isn't it? That call to adventure. What a tragedy if that moment when you're called to adventure finds you unprepared or unqualified for that which would be your finest hour, the start of your hero's journey. Another way of interpreting the quote. So just a couple of paragraphs to go and we'll go into the lesson. Maybe we could do a quick meditation on it actually. So Sally, if you can read the next one, will you step up?
Will you step up to the start of your finest hour and allow only the Holy Spirit or voice of oneness to guide you? Or will you continue to live in the delusional hope that somehow your sense of being a separate self can guide you out of the mess that it's made? Yeshua has given us daily mind training lessons in the Course in Miracles workbook and a comprehensive theoretical foundation in the Course in Miracles text to help us step back from our egos and instead step up to listening to the guidance of this and only this voice.
So that's the purpose of this mind training program, is to allow you to really connect with the Holy Spirit, be guided by this voice and only this voice, and take new steps on your journey of awakening every day. So it's an ongoing process. So whenever you do a lesson, practice a lesson, whenever you show up to a session, you're saying, okay, I'm up for the guidance. I'll show up because this is the next step in my journey. And you never know. The beauty of these live sessions, you never know what's going to come up. So the Holy Spirit uses it to give you the messages that you need to hear, and you don't know exactly what that's going to be on any given day. So, any thoughts on that teaching? Quite long today, but then we have a very short lesson, so we'll just dive into the lesson if there's nothing else. Hi, Maria. How are you?
Hi. Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're just about to do the lesson. We just finished the reading of the kind of introductory text, all about, so you can read it yourself and listen to the recording. The last hour and 25 minutes if you want to catch up. But right now, let's have a look at the lesson. So short and simple and sweet. So Maria, if you can read the key idea.
Okay. God is only love, and therefore so I am. I will step back and let him. Pardon?
Therefore so am I.
Therefore so I am. So am I.
Yeah.
I will step back and let him, love, lead the way. I walk with God, love, in perfect holiness, whole awareness.
Okay, so let's unpack that. First idea, this is going to be repeated every day. This is the idea that frames everything and that begins and ends the lesson. So it's about kind of a wrapper. It's the spiritual wrapping of the review ideas, which I quite like. You can see like a sandwich effect. So it's like a triple decker sandwich, isn't it? You know, God is only love, and then in the middle there's a filler, and then God is only love again. There's the bread, and there's the filler again, and then it's kind of wrapped in a spiritual sandwich. So any thoughts on this idea? We talked about it in the last couple of days. Did anything else come to anyone? God is only love, and therefore so am I. Any fresh inspiration coming through? Maria, any thoughts on that?
Yes, I do, because actually I had a very nice experience about the subject. I woke up yesterday and I didn't feel like getting up. And shall I take a shower? I don't need to take a shower. I'm too tired. I better not meditate, go on meditation. I just, whatever. And I kind of went back to sleep. And then suddenly something woke me up and said, wake up to the presence of God. And I jump out of bed and straight to the shower and downstairs. So it was lovely, lovely. It was an energy that took over me. However, yesterday, during the preparation of dinner, which I was part of, I had a not a very nice exchange with somebody, and I reacted. Instead of responding, I reacted. And then afterwards, it made me feel so bad. I was awful. I said, oh my God, what happened? So where was God then?
Yeah, well, the ego came back in temporarily, but at least you realized it and said, okay, so I can see I was out of alignment there. That's okay. So you made a mistake.
Yeah, because then I couldn't sleep well because it kept waking me up. This not a nice feeling, waking me up. So I don't know if it is a lesson so that I will be more careful next time, maybe.
Yeah, always. You know, there's a lesson, and if it's just a mistake, you recognize you went out of alignment with spirit, and so then it wasn't a very nice interaction. There was separation, there was some conflict, but you don't want that. You're willing to let it go, and don't beat yourself up. Don't feel guilty, because what you experienced there was that guilt again coming back.
Yeah.
You don't beat yourself up. You just say, the truth is, God is only love, and therefore so am I.
In spite of having done this made this mistake, I am still.
Because the power of this radical forgiveness is that he's saying the mistake in the past never really happened. Because right now, you can access the power of this love and you can experience it right now. And it has no reference at all to the past. So your mistake is over. Moment by moment, your mistake, the past is over. It's only ever the present moment when you can allow this love to come through right now. So you can make a mistake, and the next second you can change your mind and you can be fully in the presence of God and love. And that's radical forgiveness. Just drop it. Because right now, in this moment, I don't have to be rooted in that past awareness. It's gone. The past is over. And so that,
Okay.
that whole experience just drops away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's the power of this forgiveness. You can just drop everything away, let it go, and moment by moment, you can do this. You make a mistake, you can drop it, and the next minute you can be free. That's the power of it. You don't have to stay in the consciousness of it and reflect on it and dwell on it and feel guilty about it. You can just let it go and experience the truth. God is only love, and therefore so am I.
Mm-hmm.
Then I will step back and let love lead the way. So I will step back. Maria steps back from the situation, from your interpretation, from your guilt. I step back and let this lead the way. Let this
Yeah.
love and presence lead the way.
Yeah.
And this love has no condemnation. It doesn't judge you, it doesn't condemn you, it doesn't say you're a bad person, or you know, it just says right now you are love. God is only love, and therefore so are you. Right now. So there's grace. You see, this is the grace of God. You're forgiven instantly. You just have to accept it. That's our only difficulty. We don't accept it. We want to crucify ourselves and make ourselves guilty and blame ourselves and go, how could you do that? And how could you be so unconscious? And no, you go, okay, I see it. See it clearly. I made a mistake. I know I reacted. I went out of alignment. That was my belief in separation arising again. Okay. It's over. I get it. No. I won't do that again. So I'm back in the love of God. I will step back and let him lead the way. Let love lead the way. And that's the power of this forgiveness. Instant. You can drop it all and just be free of any mistake. Because it's only a mistake. A mistake is not permanent. It's not a sin. Sin would make it permanent and real. Mistake is temporary, transitory, and then it's over. It's like everything just comes and goes. It so quickly fades. I mean, that is the nature of life. Impermanence. So how can we make a mistake permanent? Make it into a sin and feel guilty about it? That's not how it works. Does that make sense, Maria?
Yes, it does. It does.
So if the ego comes calling and it's trying to get you to dwell on the mistake, just counter it with any of these ideas, daily lessons. God is only love, therefore so am I. Good one. I will step back and let love lead the way in the situation. Okay. There's no guilt. There's no consciousness of error in love. Love is perfect. Love is whole. Let perfect love lead the way. And then I walk with God in perfect holiness or whole awareness. So I think I left out a word there. So I walk with God or love in perfect holiness or perfect whole awareness. Saying right now my awareness is whole. I'm not fragmented. I'm not feeling guilty, fearful. I'm just in this holiness, whole awareness, a whole awareness of perfect love. Your formless awareness of perfect love. So these are affirmations to claim a state of mind and a state of being. That can be really helpful moment by moment. The reason he gives us these short little reminders is that in the moment when you get tempted, you can just bring this to mind and it can be very helpful in shifting the energy. changing it into a loving energy. So any thoughts on either of those ideas? Iona?
I'm very happy with this triple decker sandwich of love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Triple decker spiritual sandwich for lunch.
yeah.
Spiritual sustenance. Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
I like the way he frames it. I think his methodology is great. The God is only love, framing it, introducing it,
Mhm.
and it kind of just wraps it, doesn't it? It creates like a wrapper and definitely enhances the experience of the other two ideas.
It's actually it was like a mantra I was using yesterday when I had that piece of work, and it was quite intense and it was quite sort of gazy, you know, had a lot of lenses.
Yeah.
And I started saying this: God is only love, therefore so am I.
Okay.
And then I had this kind of peaceful smile on my face, and I go, "Oh, beautiful! Yep, really
Yeah.
perfect. Yep." And I was going, "Yeah, you just do this for me."
Yeah.
Because I knew that if I started thinking, "Oh my God," you know,
Yeah. Getting self-conscious.
exactly.
Yeah. And then on the level of form, you know, the photographer's going, "Oh, amazing! Yeah, I'm getting exactly the right look because it's inside out."
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. It's inside out. That's exactly what I was.
Yeah. And probably the reason they were attracted to you as a model was because that's kind of presence is shining through you, isn't it? They're like, there's something a little bit different about this person, and they want to capture that and, you know, use it for their marketing. And interesting, we talked about Apple earlier because Apple is really about inspiration. Why do people buy Apple? Because there's something different to an Apple. And, you know, although the technology is I think overpriced and it's expensive for what you get compared with competitors, people will buy Apple because Apple has something else that a Samsung or a Huawei or whatever, you know, it doesn't have. It doesn't have the consciousness, the energy around it,
Oh, that's
which
what
is
it
captured in the brand. So, you know, then they're interesting. They're looking for brand ambassadors who will embody that in form. And they obviously picked up on that spiritual energy in you. That scout who was like, oh, okay, this is what you're looking for, is a look and a quality. And then, you know, it comes through in the photos. So it'd be really interesting to see the photos if you have them.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Mm.
I
it came through.
Yeah, I'm just a bit nervous about because I have to be a little harsh about this.
Yeah. But you don't have to talk about it. It's fine. So right now we can go to a meditation if you like. Have you got to go though? You said 1:15.
What is the time? What's the time? Oh God, I've got an appointment at 2:30. Yeah. Okay.
So if you need to go, now's an obvious time because we're going to start a meditation.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay. Are you going to join tonight?
Yeah, let's join tonight.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
We're going to have a chat then.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. So let's do a 15-20 minute meditation on the lesson, shall we? So just making yourself comfortable. Sitting feet shoulder width apart, back straight. Cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clenching your sphincter muscle, locking the energy in. Drawing the energy up the spine. It's flowing up into your heart center. And drawing it all the way up into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. So just check in and scan your mind. Notice any thoughts, any emotions, any related sensations going on, particularly anything that feels negative or limiting, contracted, constricting in any way. And you breathe into it. Just create some space, some light, some awareness. Remind yourself of key idea, sandwich idea, we'll call it, that frames the two review ideas. God is only love. And therefore, so am I. God is only love, and therefore, so am I. Say that with conviction. Breathe in on the truth of that. Inhaling this frequency of perfect love into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. It's infused with this loving presence. Engage with it, embrace it, feel it, the very core of your being. It's who you really are, the ultimate truth about you. You can experience that truth right now and come home and rest in the truth. So just step back and let this truth, perfect love, lead the way. Say, I will step back and let love lead the way. And any blocks, any obstacles to this love that you might be experiencing, any scraps of fear, little bits of frustration, irritation, anger, anxiety, ranging to rage, guilt, fear, sin, and so on. Just blow it all out, let it all go. Say, I will step back and let this loving presence lead the way. So you exhale, you blow it all out. The breeze of your breath to the nothingness that it really is. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And you just rest. Rest in the love of God. Say, God is only love, therefore, so am I. Feel into those words. Drop into the energy of them. Smile. Because love is here, right now, this moment. This eternal loving presence is awoken in your mind. Wants to guide you and lead you through life. All you have to do is step back and be done through. Let it lead the way. Let it direct your thoughts and your words and your actions. Let it reinterpret your entire life for you and make of it a beautiful symphony, song of prayer, song of praise to Spirit, Spirit of life and love. This is your true purpose, your special function, to be a teacher of this loving presence. Teach it through all of your words, your actions. This is what it means to be inspired, to live an inspired life, to be on purpose. It means to step back. You step back, your little ego self, the one with all the fears and neuroses and desires and pathologies and dysfunctions and whatever else characterize this very limited, separate self. You step back from all of that and you let this loving presence, infinite, eternal love, lead the way, and you trust that it will guide you flawlessly through the maze of the matrix, maze of separation that is this seeming world we live in. It will help you reinterpret all of it so that you see only love, you experience only love, and come to realize through that experience that you are that love. Just say one more time, God is only love, and therefore so am I. And so I walk with God, I walk with love in perfect holiness, perfect whole awareness. Perfectly whole awareness is mine. This is what love is, perfect whole awareness. No fragmentation of my mind, no belief in separation enters my mind. No fear, doubt, worry, no disconnection from my source, just perfectly whole awareness. Perfectly whole awareness in my mind, the whole awareness of love. The love that I truly am. God is only love, say to yourself one more time. And therefore, so am I. Say it with meaning and purpose and conviction. Connect with the words deeply. Feel the energy of them. Words are just pointers or signposts to the energetic state they lead to. So let those words stimulate a deep experience of this loving presence. So nowhere else to go and nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still, be guided. Guided in and by the presence of love. So I'll step back and let this loving presence lead the way. I walk with love in perfect whole awareness. And there's really nothing else to do and nowhere else to go. Just abide in this holy state of awareness. Perfectly whole awareness of love in your mind, in your hearts. It's a field of energy which entrains your entire body into its vibrational frequency. So feel that now. Just allow that process to unfold for you. Smile. So you're in the love of God. You are the love of God. God is only love, and therefore so are you. This is the truth, the only truth of your nature, your true identity. Embrace that, surrender to it. Step back and let this love show you the truth of this. Let it lead the way. Walk with it, silence and peace for the next couple of minutes of deep silence. Many thoughts arise. This deep peace to seeming disturb that. Thoughts that are clearly not love. Thought of fear, separation in any way, shape or form. Anxiety, attack thoughts, irritation, frustration, anger. Whatever it is, just observe it. Breathe into it again. Nice deep breath in, breathing in this loving presence. Remind yourself that God is only love, and therefore so am I. God is only love, therefore so am I. And you merge into this feeling of love. Step back and let it lead the way. So you blow away any negative thoughts. Imagine they're like dark clouds just leaving you, going, gone, the breeze of your breath to the nothingness they really are. And you surrender into this loving presence that you really are. I think God is only love, therefore so am I. Allow the feeling of these words to arise in your mind, your heart, your body, to encompass you fully, completely, deeply surrender to them for the next couple of minutes of deep silence. So just coming back from this deep connected state, bring some awareness into the body and your breath and the senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how breath flows into the nostrils, chest and the stomach rise, clench the sphincter muscle, lock the energy in, draw the energy up the spine to your heart center, draw the energy all the way up into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale, and smile. Scan your mind again, notice any thoughts, emotions, sensations arising, and smile. As you are in the love of God. God is only love, and therefore so are you, and anything that seems to block that awareness, you can simply let go of. Say, I will step back and let His loving presence lead the way. I walk with love and perfect whole awareness. So, count to 2, exhale. Notice the air flowing out, chest and the stomach sucked back in. Energy raised up, spine into the crown of your head, subsides back down, front channel of your body, coming to rest in your lower stomach and your groin. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And rest at the bottom of the exhale. In the peace and the stillness. The weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling with your hands touching. Maybe there's a subtle flow of air on your skin. Notice that. Breathe that air in. Notice any smell in your nose, any taste in your mouth. Notice what you're hearing. And without any judgment, just you observing from a state of pure formless awareness or holiness. And you don't judge, name, label, interpret any of your sense perceptions. They're very clear, very, very light, very freeing. Not the heaviness of the ego's interpretations. There's a lightness of being that flows through your perceptions. So this is the enlightened state of mind retraining, samadhi it's been called. You are rooted in this awareness. It's one awareness, the same awareness that perceives all seemingly different things in this world. You recognize they're not really different because there's only one awareness, true awareness that underlies them. You're rooted in that awareness. So you're going to stay in that awareness for the rest of the afternoon and evening by reminding yourself of today's lessons frequently, ideally every hour. And if you feel challenged by anything, just remind yourself that God is only love, and therefore so am I. And I will step back and let this love lead the way. So I walk with this loving presence in perfectly whole awareness. And just a few seconds reminding yourself of these ideas can be enough to just reconnect you to this presence that you're feeling quite deeply now, to top you up. So use the idea frequently. If you have longer, you can use a 5-minute breath break, recording that I sent to you this morning, just to keep you connected to this loving presence that you really are. So it is said, so it is done. And on the count of 3, now open your eyes. Take a minute just to look around, observing everything with your eyes in this very calm, connected way. So there's no judgment. You don't have to name and label and interpret anything. Notice how peaceful and how loving you feel. This is what it means to be in loving awareness. I am loving awareness, just rooted in the underlying awareness, no dysfunction, and everything's just quite smooth and peaceful, and you're wholly aware. So notice the state, anchor it in by noticing it, and set the intention to stay there for the rest of the afternoon and evening. So it is said, so it is done. And that brings us to the end of the meditation and of today's this afternoon session. So thank you, Sally and Maria, for joining, and I hope to see you a little bit later. Join us tonight at 8:30 if you can for the evening session, when we'll do another meditation on today's lesson and we'll read the text. So namaste.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you. Bye.
See you tomorrow, Sally. Maria, are you joining later? I think you're muted. You're muted.
Now I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I will probably, yes. Yes. I
That's
will
it.
be.
Yeah. Okay. So just log on at 8:30.
Yes. Mhm.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Bye for now.
Bye.